Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to address this August House on International Women's Day to provide a brief update on the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, known as CEDAW. This convention shapes our national efforts towards gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. Madam Speaker, Fiji became a party to CEDAW in 1995. As a state party, Fiji is required to submit to the CEDAW Committee a state report every 4 years to update the committee of what we are doing on a national level to fulfill the provisions of the convention. On 23rd February this year, Fiji participated at the CEDAW 69th Constructive Dialogue session with the CEDAW Committee at the United Nations office in Geneva. During that dialogue, the Fijian delegation was able to clarify for the committee queries that they had pertaining to our obligations under CEDAW. In compiling their questions, the committee had considered the shadow report which was submitted by the coalition of NGOs in Fiji, the report of the Fiji Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Commission, and also the committee's own concluding observations from Fiji's previous review in 2010. Madam Speaker, by means of background and with reference to Fiji's adherence in accordance with Article 18 of the Convention, Fiji has so far submitted 5 periodic state reports since its ratification in 1995. Government has appeared before the 23-member CEDAW Committee for the second time now since 2010 to defend state reports against criticisms and allegations in NGO shadow reports and to engage in a constructive dialogue with the committee on Fiji's way forward. In this regards, Madam Speaker, the delegation found the constructive dialogue most useful as it provides a third-party independent review of the various national efforts we are undertaking as a government and as a country, a review that identified opportunities for further boosting our national aim for gender equality and the empowerment of women. Madam Speaker, the constructive dialogue dealt with key issues in gender discourse, including non-discrimination, state obligations, measures to accelerate equality, stereotype and culture, prostitution and trafficking, participation in public and political life, international representation, nationality, education, employment, health, economic empowerment, rural women, equality before the law, marriage, and family life. Judging from the questions posed to the delegation and the discussions that followed, one would identify the issue of gender-based violence and women's participation in public and political life as two of the main areas of interest identified by the CEDAW Committee in relation to Fiji. Madam Speaker, in preparing the state delegation for Fiji's participation at the 69th session in Geneva, the Ministry convened a 3-day CEDAW awareness session and mock dialogue workshop in January this year. This was facilitated by the SPC Regional Rights Resource Team and UN Women. I'm grateful to the resource personnel for the enormous coaching and preparation of the team. This forum effectively equipped the Fijian delegation with knowledge and empowerment for the constructive dialogue. Madam Speaker, at this juncture, I would like to state that it takes a concerted effort and commitment across government and the strengthening of partnerships with non-government organizations for Fiji to comply with the principles of the Convention. The presence of gender focal points in government agencies provided a strong foundation to obtain gender-related data sets in our preparation for Geneva. I'm glad to share with this House that government agencies made huge efforts to provide data sets which were not routinely collected in the information systems. We now have a stronger gender disaggregated data platform across the civil service, and this is a good reference point as we move forward. CEDAW work has allowed us to have this evidence-based data, which will be very important in assessing the impact of gender interventions and the promotion of gender equality. Moreover, we believe that through the coordinated efforts of the CEDAW stakeholders, the collation of sex disaggregated data will now become part and parcel of data collection in government ministries and departments. Madam Speaker, in my introductory statement at the 69th session Constructive Dialogue, I highlighted fundamental areas of national development since our last reporting in 2010, which were critical for the advancement of gender equality and the empowerment of women in Fiji, including the 2013 Constitution and its unique provisions on socio-economic rights, the new electoral system and its impact on the increased participation of women in political life, work of the National Women's Machinery, and reviving of the Women's Plan of Action task forces, initiatives in addressing gender-based violence, developments and programs under the education, health, employment, and economic sectors, access to justice initiatives, climate change mitigation and resilience programs, government initiatives on the rights of persons with disabilities, and strengthening partnerships with stakeholders in combating trafficking and prostitution in Fiji. Madam Speaker, in addressing the participation of women in public and political life, it is noteworthy that more women than ever before, 44 in total, constituting 17.7% of total candidates, stood as candidates in the 2014 elections. This translated to 14% of women in parliament after the elections, the highest number ever for a Fijian parliament. Our first woman speaker, Madam Speaker, the Secretary General as well. I've been advised that in all elections since independence, women secured fewer than 12% of seats in parliament. Apart from the impact of cultural gender stereotyping and other socio-economic reasons, the low number of females in parliament can also be attributed to the electoral systems that existed previously in Fiji, which favored men and further isolated female candidates from being voted into parliament. Coupled with this is the fact that our previous electoral systems were race-based, favoring some communities more over others. Whilst we acknowledge that we still have some way to go for a true reflection of our national female population vis-à-vis representation in parliament, we believe that a concerted national effort for the empowerment of women across all sectors will steadily encourage the increased participation of women in political and public life. This, Madam Speaker, is why the socio-economic rights under the 2013 Constitution is such an important platform for the empowerment of Fijian women. The progressive realization of those rights, as we are witnessing right now in our country, will bolster the resolve of Fijian women to contribute more meaningfully in political and public space. We believe that increased access to education, to better health facilities, to roads, to water, to electricity, and to services will empower more women to positions of leadership in public and political life. We also believe, Madam Speaker, that whilst temporary special measures will immediately take us to our target of gender equality in public and political life, these measures are a band-aid solution, which do not address the root causes of gender inequality. We believe that a more focused effort on addressing these root causes will augur well for true equality, which is sustainable in the long term. Madam Speaker, Fiji is now preparing for her second parliamentary elections under the 2013 Constitution. What we need to see and encourage right now is more women candidates of merit in the lineup of political parties. Our electoral system is young. It has only been tested once and has proven to be conducive for the increased representation of women in parliament when coupled with continuing work by government and the non-government sector to deal holistically with the socio-economic barriers which become an obstacle for the participation of women in the electoral process and at all levels of decision-making in Fiji. Madam Speaker, datasets made available to us in our preparatory work show that 54% of the civil service workforce is women. The introduction of the open merit recruitment system by the Ministry of Civil Service, in our view, is an important step in getting rid of the gender barriers and gender stereotypical attitudes which have existed for so long and which prevented the promotion of women to senior positions, not because they did not have the required merit, but simply because they are women. Madam Speaker, in the area of education, we can say that the secondary school retention rate for females is higher